want to see you Mickey. You're not a heavy man. You fi choose.
Yo. I gotta tell you, DJ Firebone, every week, it just gets better and better. If you can't get no better, I don't know what's gonna happen around here. Listen, if you are just joining Community Voices with MoMo Love alongside DJ Firebone, it is a happy Wednesday. And I told you guys that Stephen Marley is going to be here Thursday, March 12th, and he's going to be performing at the Howard Theater. You definitely have to keep it locked to a Blazing Radio because you know we are the premier ticket giveaway radio station in the DMV, the premier Caribbean station in the DMV. I mean, I can't toot the horn too much more louder, but I will. Boop, boop. Y'all, I crack myself up. It's Community Voices with MoMo Love right here on the Blazing Radio. You already know my guy, DJ Firebone, been holding it down as he does each and every Wednesday. Listen, as I promised you guys, Julius Maina is here. He is the partnership coordinator with the Census 2020. Welcome, sir.
Happy to be here.
We are happy to have you here. I'm so appreciative of you taking the time to come and spend your night with us and talk about Census 2020 because, I mean, you know, we've been seeing a lot of the ads and a lot of people talk about, oh, the census and the census is important. And, you know, I don't think a lot of people actually understand what it means. I think people believe that it is just about counting people and being in your business, so to speak. So I just want to know a little bit about the census. But first, let's get a chance to know Julius. Where are you from, sir?
I'm born and raised in Nairobi, Kenya.
All right, Kenya in the house without a doubt. I love it.
It is, but then I've been in Maryland for a little bit. Did high school and all sorts of college in Maryland, and I've been here ever since.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, welcome. I'm glad you've been here since high school. Made your name here, set a home here, and how did you make your way to the census?
God, right? So my last job, I was working at the Minority Business Development Agency.
Okay.
And the whole goal was we need to advocate for more minority businesses. Went to law school, and I was all about policy. Like, we need more of us in policy, drive that conversation, because policy and money are the same thing.
Yeah.
And then the census happened, right? The administration changed, and there was this thing about we need to count people, and I was like, I've never heard of this before. I looked it up, and the more I researched it, I was like, oh my gosh, everything that we talk about that we don't have in our community boils down to the census. The roads, the schools, everything needs to get fixed. So I became a policy impact advocate. So that's what I think of myself as.
Okay, I'm glad you mentioned policy because policy is what drives, as you said, policy is money, and it's what drives government and states and localities and municipalities as it is. So I was just wondering, the census has been around since what?
1790 was the first time we ever completed the census.
And why did the forefathers feel that a census was needed?
So the way they looked at it is they had to figure out a way to give states money. And the best way to determine how much money will be given to the states from the federal government was through a population count. So how well we count people determines how much money goes to those communities. So that was the enumeration clause in the Constitution was what they put it under back in the day in 1790.
As a mandate.
Yes. So it's constitutionally mandated. This is legally your responsibility to respond, but it is a self-response. Yeah. And we could talk about the nuance of that, because if it's constitutionally mandated, why did they make it self-response?
Right.
They want everybody to be counted.
That's always the question. Like, it's mandatory, but how you gonna make me?
There it is.
But it's not so much in the making, but it is in the making of it. I couldn't find a different word, but it's not so much in the making of the government making you do something, but it is of what the consequence is. That's what I want to say. I'm wondering, there's so many different layers to the census, so many different surveys and things like that, that we think this is a big thing, but we knowingly / unknowingly take census surveys all our lives, starting with schools. And I know that the census has been promoting SIS. I can't.
Statistics in schools.
Yes,
it's our
sir.
initiative in which we realized kids are the biggest advocates, right? But they don't realize that everything they use from data comes from the census. So geography, math, and there's one other topic. We created curriculum specific to the students. So now they're touching our data. Genealogy, right? If you want to trace people after 7 years, you can go in and find who your great-great-great-grandmother was, right? They talk about the Constitution all the time. Census, right? So we've intentionally put the curriculums in the schools to make young people so that 10 years from now, because the census is done every 10 years, they don't have to wonder what it is. They heard about it in school, they're seeing it in the TV, media, and now this next 10 years, like, we will not be scrambling to get people.
Yeah, I think it was a great marketing campaign if it was about marketing to start with the children, because one, it is a great educational tool, like you said, to help them understand what the census is. But I think, sometimes when kids go home and they say, oh, we learned this in school and you have to do this, and a parent knowingly or unknowingly files it in chapter 13. So, how do you, is that something that is instilled, because it's a week-long process, right?
So no, it's March 12th through July 30th.
Oh, if in the schools?
Oh no, so SIS week. I thought you meant how long will you have to fill out the
Oh, no, yeah.
SIS week is this week.
Yeah.
It's a week-long process. We worked with different superintendents. We said, just give us a week, because it's really hard to get anything into schools.
Yeah.
So it is week-long, where we want them to do games, activities, and just really champion it. But to your point, what happens when the child goes home? And how do we engage the adult? So we made it really fun and simple. So there's like a census song. They can go home, be like, Mom, right?
Okay.
And once again, if the kids say, Mom, this is really important, they might not pay attention the first time. But your kids start singing a census song.
Yeah.
You're like,
what are you singing?
Exactly. So
what is the census song? Okay, that's good. And what other kind of surveys do we take throughout the year that kind of applies to census before we actually get to the 10-year census?
That's an excellent question. We have the area community survey, which is a survey that's done randomly every year. So it's a random sample of different people. Oh, that's a lot better. Oh, I feel like Barry White right now. She adjusted my mic. But no, so we have the area community survey that's done. It's a random sample that's done all throughout the year. We have a business survey where we go to business owners and we say, hey, tell us about who you are. We have 5 more other services that we mentioned, but the big ones are area community survey and the decennial census.
Now let's talk about the business one, though, because I think that's it. It's so fun. When I was doing this research on it, it was amazing to me, because businesses, you don't understand, as an employee, you don't even understand what the EEOC questionnaire is, and all of these things that kind of lead up to how the census, which we'll get into, it's hard to not talk about it when you got to talk about it, right? How the census obtains this data that lets us know jobs.
Yep.
Talk more about that.
So I love the business conversation, because 2 things. People don't build businesses if there's no people documented, right? So we don't even realize, the more we count people, the more businesses come.
Right.
So Walmart, Chipotle is like, hey, is it going to be profitable for me to put a Chipotle?
Build it over here in this area.
And then the other thing we have a free tool, Census Business Builder. So to your point, if I'm interested in building mom and pop shop, whatever industry, I can go to that tool, because we already did the surveys, and it'll tell me who here is in that industry, right? So now you can do your SWOT analysis. Does it even make sense for me to put a business in when there's 10 of these businesses out there? And we go out there, we pay numbers to people, but we don't use the free tools available for us to figure out the very same thing, because people are responding. There is a
free tools to find demographic information if I want to build a business in an area.
Yep. If you're interested in building a business, you should know who's there. So Census Business Builder, go online right now. Census Business Builder, and it literally, because I used to advise people on startups.
Okay.
And I'm like, have you done the SWOT analysis, right? Because we got to educate.
What's SWOT? What's a SWOT analysis?
Strength, weakness is opportunity and threats.
Okay.
Because you got to know before you build how the foundation is going to be.
Yeah.
My granddad used to always say that, and I never understood it.
Okay.
But if you're going to build, do the legwork, figure out the foundation, dig deep, and get all that data. And so that's what the census does, right? All our thing is we give people tools to have a better narrative so they can figure out, something like businesses.
All right. So what else is it? What else is the data used for that they say the data is used for? Businesses.
Yep.
What else?
Businesses, schools, roads, anything funded publicly is from the census data, right? Free lunch, SNAP, Medicaid, things that we think about all the time, but we don't realize are directly related to census.
Yeah. Like those little blue cards that the kids bring home, or the white cards.
Exactly.
All of that kind of plays a part in ensuring and making sure that all the I's are dotted and the T's are crossed.
And I like that example because we were talking about schools. So now imagine if we know the level of income in this area is this, and we know that this many school children. We do not want children to go to school and be hungry.
Yeah.
But if we don't count our kids, and children under 5 are the highest undercounted population historically.
Yes.
You have kids going in, and school is like, we can't give them free lunch. And the reality is what they're really saying is we never allocated for your children in our community.
Interesting.
Because they get direct funding from the federal government.
Yeah.
And the state has it and deploys it based on population count.
Interesting. And you know what? If I had really known what the census was all about 10 years ago, 20 years ago, I would have taken a little more heed into filling out certain things, because even those blue cards from school, and I'm going to hold on to that for a moment, because once I realized what it was, is that the state gives you a certain amount of money for each child, right? And, I had gotten it in my head from somewhere that, they're just trying to count your kids and deny this or whatever. No, it's to make sure that each child has enough, starting with food, starting with books, starting with the gymnasium. You know what I mean? I wouldn't have moved to a particular area had I known they only had one high school when my children were younger, right? Because that information
is publicly available, right? So I was talking to somebody today. Montgomery County Public Schools, one of the best public districts
schools in the
nation.
Yeah.
But you can actually look how much they invest per student, and it's usually like around $18,000. But if you compare that all across, you're gonna be like, and they get their money's worth. So now, if you have a good public school system, it's fully funded, then that same amount of money that you pay for private school, the federal government has already allocated for the same amount of money, 18,000 private school, 18,000 public school. You just don't realize it because you never, we're not often educated how the dollar amount per student is allocated and where it comes from and why we need to be counted and how it relates to the census.
So interesting. If you are just joining Community Voices with MoMo Love alongside DJ Firebone, we are speaking with Mr. Julius Maina of the U.S. Census. He is the partnership coordinator. And I am just learning all kinds of things. We have a question on Facebook Live. How does the count affect homeschooling?
So that is a nuanced question. If you're schooled at home, it's actually the most direct touch point of how it's affected. It's a census. Every 10 years we count you at home. So if you're actually using the services wherever you are, we'll know that there's a student in the household who might not be going to the school district. So services, like if I'm a business provider, I'll start now creating things for that specific demographic, because if we know not all the students are at the school, we now might have to now consider what do they need at home, right? Curriculums, services, language, right? So they might put services around that home specific to that child who's homeschooled.
Meaning jobs could be created for tutors.
Absolutely.
Or in arts, because I don't know, I've never homeschooled and I haven't had a big topic on it, but is it possible to have the music curriculum put in there? Maybe you could have a tutor or a piano teacher come in and build that around there. So it's still equally important to fill out the census forms.
Yeah, it's equal important, period. Regardless where you are, you have to just view it. I want the most we can get in our community because we have issues that we want to resolve. And the only way we can resolve them is we got to first get counted, and then we can talk about allocation.
So the planning decisions that go into the count or go into the structure, if you will, of the census, what does it help? You mentioned roads. What other kind of things does the planning go into?
So infrastructure development, right? We talked about it on the back end. If you know how many people are there, you can bring businesses, right? But let's make it super plain. There might be a virus right now happening, right?
Yeah.
So let's say we counted 100% of 100 people in our community. Virus breaks out. They only have 100 vaccines. But if there's really 300 people, that could really be a scary thing to think about, because that's they allocate things just based on head counts. And even the CDC is going to anticipate when something goes wrong, we're going to go there, but this is who we know that's there, because that's the only people that responded. And in communities that are often undercounted, that should be like, nah, we really need to get counted.
Hence, a tragic situation breaks out, a flood, a hurricane, and people go to the hospitals. They don't have enough beds. They don't have enough masks. They don't have enough oxygen. They don't have enough physicians, and because people are not counted into the emergency management planning.
Exactly. And then let's talk about crime, right? So I live in Baltimore City now.
Okay.
We have a population.
Pick up B More.
There it is, B More in the house. Hey, B More. Crime statistics are calculated. They look at the crime divided by population. We don't even think about this directly, but what that means is if 3 crimes happen in the same place, but the population is off, you might have different crime statistics. So you'll see Baltimore highest crime inflation, but the people weren't counted. They're dividing by a number that might not be accurate.
Interesting.
So they could have county and city the same amount of crime, but the population is different.
Yes.
So the narrative is going to be like, oh my gosh, look at all the crime
in Baltimore.
And then they're going to deploy more police officers, things that now align to the data of crime statistics in Baltimore City. But the reality is, I live there. It's not that bad.
So it seems like, all the police are over here.
And it doesn't seem like the data is actually, because sometimes data can tell the right story the wrong way.
Gotcha.
Right? Because they are just taking crime divided by population, right? People are saying, hey, this is not bias at all. But if the communities that are historically undercounted don't have the accurate population, and we're saying those communities have the worst crime, is it really telling two story?
Interesting. So the census also helps when you're counted on job training.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So 2 things. Plug, we are hiring.
Uh-oh.
Right?
We're going to get into that.
So the census is the largest peacetime operation, but no, whenever you do the census form, whether it's area community survey or the decennial census, there's a lot of questions that they ask, and we can determine what that community might need more than just they need money for school, right? If somebody's unemployed for a certain amount of time, right, because the ACS survey is about 70 questions, then they might have to provide services to help that person who's unemployed in that community get job ready. So skills, services, once again, all tied into how we figure out how the community really looks, which is the census.
Interesting. All right. It's Community Voices with MoMo Love. Don't you hate it when we have to pay commercials? But we do. We're going to be right back. Please do not go anywhere.
BlazinRadio.com. Blazing the hottest reggae, soca, dance hall, Afrobeat, and hip hop 24/7 worldwide.
Yes, DMV, Maryland, Virginia. Get ready for the biggest event ever. It's all about Dollar Entertainment presents Dollar Fest. Dollar Fest. Dollar Fest. Yes, my party people, it's all about Dollar Fest. The Blue Edition. Going up Friday, March 13th. This is the biggest Dollar Fest ever. Get your tickets now at dollarfest.com. Music by Fire Oats, Junior Cruiser, Precious Lane, By Far Mega, Natural Mystic, and special guest DJ. Hosted by Santana Salazar at Salazar Entertainment. I'm telling you, bottle deals available, 21 plus, proper ID required. It's food, it's drinks, it's friends, it's soca, it's reggae, it's dancehall. Dollar Fest.
Get ready for the the DMV's hottest rooftop day party, Views and Vibes. Coming to you each and every Sunday from 3 p.m. till 9. Put on your baddest outfit and make your way to Society Lounge Rooftop in downtown Silver Spring with sounds from the DMV's hottest DJs playing the best of Afro beats, hip-hop, dancehall, soca, and more. Get into the day party for free. Visit vxv.eventbrite.com. For VIP and table reservations, contact 301-412-3837. It's Views and Vibes.
The Jerk Pit in College Park, serving authentic jerk chicken, pork, fish, shrimp, oxtails, goat, tofu, and much more. Ask about our live entertainment, weekend buffet, and exclusive Oasis Lounge. Visit myjerkpit.com or call 301-982-JERK.
So hot.
A Blazin' now available on your smartphone. Download a Blazin' Radio app now. Available on iPhone, iPod, iPad, Android, and BlackBerry.
A Blazin' Radio.
A Blazin' Radio.
DMV's number one for reggae.
Dance Hall.
Soca.
Afrobeat.
All I need tonight is your green light. So magic, that your green light.
Follow us on all social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. ABlazinRadio.com.
It's cool, man. Life is good. You know what I mean? Like,
$100,000 for the cheapest ring on the finger, little. I done flew one out to Spain to be in my domain automata.
Keep it locked to ABlazinRadio.com, where entertainment lives.
So hot.
Oh God, this is Grandpa James, aka the Soca Commissioner, and you got it locked right here to A Blazin' Radio. That's right. Hot, blazing, just like a roti doubles and all kind of thing. You don't know. Keep it locked right here, and if you change the dial, that will piss me off.
The views and opinions expressed on A Blazin' Radio are those of the host, guests, and callers and are not necessarily those of the station, its owner, management, or advertisers. The shows found on A Blazin' Radio may promote any lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or other personal practice. A Blazin' Radio does not confirm nor deny the validity or accuracy of the information given by radio show hosts or guests. These shows are for entertainment and enjoyment purposes only.
Now, let's get back to the hottest reggae, soca, afro, hip-hop, and R&B music right here on A Blazin' Radio. ABlazinRadio.com.
Welcome back to Community Voices with MoMo Love alongside DJ Firebone. It is a wonderful Wednesday, and I have to remind you guys, make sure you download the free A Blazin' Radio Pro app. It is for iPhone and Android users. You can take us each and every single place that you go, 24/7, 365 days a year. We are talking Census 2020 with my new good friend, Mr. Julius Maina. He is the partnership coordinator for the Census 2020, and y'all, he is breaking it down, dropping all kinds of jewels. I hope you guys have been learning and getting some jewels dropped and picking them up and putting them in your pocket. Big up yourself, Granville Priest. Thank you so much for your question. Hello, Nicole. Hello, Job Punisher, and everybody that is checking in. DJ Q up on the mic and screen. DJ Firebone is on the ones and twos, rocking it out for 592 Sound, and we appreciate him so much. But we're going to get back into this conversation because it is a good one. Sir, how did you get so smart? What do you do up in the census exactly?
Exactly. So I'm the Census Commissioner.
Okay.
I know. So I'm the partnership coordinator, and in my role, we realized in this census we had to figure out how to build trusted voices. So believe it or not, the government is not the trusted voice now. Right?
You don't say.
Believe it or not. So what we decided, if we're actually going to count people the way we should have been counting them the whole time, we have to partner up with the trusted voices. So in my job, I have to figure out who's a trusted voice, because it's not us, right? So it looks like churches, faith-based centers, schools, hospitals, like anywhere where there's a touch point. My job is to find out if there's a gap, who trusts the message to deliver the message. Okay. Right. So like I'm just the census whisperer.
So the Census Bureau is not a part of the government?
No, it is. So that's a fantastic question.
Yeah.
Census Bureau is under the Department of Commerce, but the Census Bureau is apolitical and nonpartisan by law. So for this effort,
There is no influence.
We are only bound by the Constitution, which means we have to uphold Title 13, which is confidentiality and privacy. So when you fill out the census, we don't share your information with FBI, IRS, CIA, home agencies.
Now, Julius, you say that, but when you look at the form, it asks for your name.
It does.
So I think that's part of the fear.
Okay.
If this information is, although it's mandatory and it's going to help me and my family, not just today, but for 10 years, but you're asking me my name, and I'm just going to keep it real because we are an internet radio station. We are heard in 85 countries, and our primary listeners are of Caribbean descent, are of African descent, are of Latina descent. And this census kind of makes people nervous. So if you say it's mandatory, but you're not going to share my information, why do you ask the name and all of these questions about me if you just want to know how many people are in my home? Why isn't my address and the number enough?
Because the more information we know, one, it's validating that there's actually 8 people in the household, right? Mm-hmm. If we leave it, so remember, $675 billion is on the line every year that's given to states. The states now have
You said how much?
$675 billion with a B.
Billion
right?
dollars.
So now the states have to be like, we got to put this money in the community.
Give it to us.
And if we did not do the name first, once again, we have the information that's not shared with anybody else, then there's no way to actually make sure that the right people are being counted. Because you could say there's 30 people in my house.
Okay.
Or you could say there's 100. But the names allows us to say this is a head of household, and we can verify that. So on the back end, we still have to create checks and balances to verify the information. So you give us your name. Remember, just the census, our beautiful encrypted system will now verify, is this person true, accurate, have they lived here majority of the time of the year? Because we still have to verify all of that stuff. So, and it's the form 2020census.gov is live. So I tell people, whenever we give you the information, please look at it. Look at the form. There's 9 questions. Any question that you think is problematic, talk about it. Ask me about it. I'll literally show up and talk about it, but it's not as intrusive as people think it is.
Yeah.
And the citizenship question, which was argued in the Supreme Court, is not on the form.
Right.
It will not be included. So that one caused a lot of red
that
flags.
does cause a lot of caused a lot of concern because people work hard to get here and to do the right thing, and so it's not punitive is what I'm hearing. Having your name written down is not punitive.
No.
It's not being shared with INS.
Yeah, and so not INS, IRS, CIA, FBI.
None of the alphabets.
Literally, none of them. And you're already giving your information in other ways. So, like, if you think about it, we go to MVA all the time. We never question it.
Yeah.
They have your name, your address, your age, your sex,
Social,
your weight, all of that.
Yeah.
We don't ask for social. We don't ask for bank account. The most intrusive age, sex, phone number, gender, how many people are in the house.
Right.
That's all we're asking.
Household income?
No. So on the area community survey, we do ask household income. On this form, no.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I mean, we also fill those things out when we apply for magazines and surveys and all of those things. So yeah, I think if we are going to, we talk about having a voice at the table, and if this is one of the easiest ways that we can have our voices heard, again, starting with the census is one of the premier ways that our children can be educated the way that they should be educated, having more schools being built, right?
Absolutely. And so like I said, I was born in Nairobi, Kenya. Kenya just had a census. And if you ever want to know how a thing matters, not just here, but everywhere in the world, see how everybody treats it, right? So I know in Kenya, they shut down the whole day.
Wow.
Right? Like, and then somebody literally comes and does the same exact thing. They come to your house with the tablet and make sure they count people, because all over the world, this was the most accurate way to give money.
Okay.
So this is not an American thing.
Yeah.
Right? People make it about the government. No, this is everywhere in the world we're doing this.
And in a lot of industries.
Absolutely. And to my Bible masses, right? And on the numbers in the Bible, it was the first census conducted.
Yes, true.
Right? Kings were always like, how do we now determine who's here, who's not?
True.
Because it was always about how do we make sure everybody's covered.
Yeah.
So this is not new.
Now let's talk about this census door-to-door thing. Are people going door-to-door? And what are we telling the people behind the door?
So, yes and no. So, for the first time ever, we're going online, right? So you can fill it out online starting March 12th.
Okay.
In 2010, this was not available. You can also call in 13 ways in 13 different languages, right? But the paper form is still coming. In the event that between March 12th and April 30th, you just refuse. You say, I don't believe it, I don't trust you. Then we pull up, right? So the way I tell people, if you don't want people to come to your door, trust us before May 1st. Fill it out online, right? Like, talk to everybody. If you have any concerns, ask them between now and May 30th. Because in Baltimore City, what we found, or in a lot of places in Maryland, people are terrified when any government employee comes to their door.
Yes.
But let's talk about that as well. When we meet with immigrant communities, we also say, just because we are government employees does not mean you got to open your door. Know your rights, people.
Okay.
Right?
Well,
so
hold on right there for a second. What is the right?
The right is, one, you can stop and say, give me your identify, like, always ask for information. Who are you? Where are you from? Can I see your badge? And if you don't want to do anything, be like, I am not interested. And they will have to go because it is still your household, right? You have household rights. I know immigrant communities, you see anybody with a badge, everybody starts.
Yes.
But we're different.
Okay.
But once again, if you do not want somebody to pull up, then be proactive and fill it out online or call up.
So the online services are available throughout the entire collection of the data, and then when and if we've reached that point, then people may come to your doors.
No, then they definitely will come, right? So it's a non-response follow-up is what we call that operation.
Okay.
In which we now deploy their enumerators. Traditionally, those are the door knockers.
Okay.
They come to your door. But what's different this time around, we hired enumerators who are local, right? So in 2010, we had people not from the community knocking on doors, and it did not go as well as it should. So this time around, we hired per census tract. So if you do see a door knocker coming in around May, it's probably your neighbor, somebody you know from the grocery store, any place that you might know, because we're hiring locally and intentionally.
All right, so let's talk about that. You're hiring locally and intentionally. And if somebody, what kind of people are you looking for?
Anybody. You just have to be 18 and unfortunately a citizen.
Okay.
But that's it, right? Because what we found, it's not so much what you've done, it's where you live that matters.
What does that mean?
So if the block that you live on, if somebody knows you, they're more inclined to open their door to you than me.
Okay.
And we can never just move to a place and just have all our people live on that block, but you already live there.
Okay.
Apply for the job, and then we'll train you to do everything else.
This is paid.
This is paid.
So where does one go to apply for this position?
So if you go to 2020census.gov, one of the tabs is jobs. The lowest is $17. It goes as high as $25 an hour in some counties.
Okay.
You can actually look up your state, your county, and the pay rate.
Okay.
And we're hiring now.
Right now.
Like literally now. Like you should be applying right now.
And they should go to where?
2020census.gov. And /jobs. I think you could just cheat that way and just add the /jobs. But I want you to go to the website anyway and look at it.
And look at it. Yeah. Look it over. There's frequently asked questions. There's a whole layout. It gives you statistics from 2010. I mean, it's a very nice website that the census did.
And I want to add, and we don't only hire door knockers, right? So there's recruiting assistants, IT managers, field officers. So there's actual office positions.
Yeah.
You can be a whole field manager, and the pay is actually really reasonable. But I tell people to wake up and apply, because the more people from your community doing this job is the more people who will understand why this is important, and that will trickle down.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, you want your community member, the one literally saying, hey, this is important.
And you're providing training to the door knockers, or to who, even
to everybody gets
so
trained.
That they can understand as well. When will that take effect? When will the jobs for the census takers take effect?
Right now.
Right now.
So because, like I said, we're going online March 12th. The training had to be between the last 2 months. We've been training heavy. So the applicant pool is a lot. So Maryland is doing really well in terms of how we recruited people to do this work. So we're training now. We do our group quarters enumeration. And all that means is anybody who's living in a facility, we have to go to the facility and count them, and they'll get, so if you're living on campus, we go to your res life and they'll say there's 30 people here.
Yeah,
so
I'm glad you segued into that, because I was going to ask, like, if I have a child in college, how is that child counted for?
So that's a great question, because students are so used to being counted by the parent, they don't even think to look at the census.
Right.
So if they're housed and living on campus, they're counted as part of the group quarters initiative. The school will know who's there
Because they have the registered
100%.
students.
But most colleges don't have housing for all 4 years. So now you're a junior, senior, and freshman and sophomore year. Somebody took care of you.
Oh,
You're living on campus. The
yeah.
last thing you're thinking about is the census.
Okay.
But now the money that could come for your age group, for your specific needs, is never going to come to that community.
Oh,
So what we
wow.
found, the communities directly around the college, they struggle. Because these college
Interesting.
students who are renters aren't thinking about the census.
You're right about
The
that.
dollars aren't coming, and now they're saying, how come in certain colleges that look like us, we don't have businesses, we don't have Chipotle, we don't have this and that. Y'all ain't counted.
Yeah. And I think about one of the schools out in North Carolina, I think it's St. Augustine, right there. There's literally nothing there for the students. And if they do live off campus, you're right, the apartment complexes are counting just and not. And the students are not receiving the benefits.
And then parents don't understand
Interesting.
census is not taxes, right? Like, and it happens kind of around the same time. So you're thinking, I'm already putting you down as a dependent.
Wow.
Right. And
So is the census doing any kind of marketing or promotion or awareness, I should say, to colleges?
100%. We held our Census Student Leader College Summit last Friday, and it was well attended. We had the two of the HBCUs in Maryland were there, community colleges, private, public, because we were intentional.
Okay.
Right, so I'm an HBCU graduate myself.
All
so
right,
I was
whoop,
like,
whoop.
but we stayed in the building.
Okay, boy.
So it was important for us to include that, those demographics in community colleges. You know, they are traditionally don't have housing, but they also have the most diverse community.
Yeah.
So if we're really trying to touch everybody, we have to hit up community colleges.
Yeah.
Because they go and then run tell that, you know, immigrant populations, international students don't realize they can actually fill out this form, right? So if you come to this country and you're used to saying or seeing that, you know what, I can't participate in this, and that. This is the one form. If you're a resident and you're here, fill out the form.
Yeah.
Be part of the process of being counted and, you know, just helping out that more people like you get services.
Gotcha.
The example that I give, Montgomery County expanded their school system, but one of the things they did, because they counted undocumented populations, they were able to now say our school will allow undocumented students to come, right? ESL, English as a second language, they can expand that if they know I'm Swahili speaking. If there's a bunch of Swahili speakers, then now we can put money behind this language service.
Which then makes people from other countries come to that area because they can get a good education for their children, which also means that there's going to be good housing and community programs and jobs.
Yep. It's a domino
Interesting
effect.
how that works. If you are just joining Community Voices with MoMo Love alongside DJ Firebone, we are having a wonderful conversation with Mr. Julius Maina,
Census Commissioner.
The Census Commissioner, Partnership Coordinator for the Census 2020. And guys, this is a very, very important thing that we should do. If for nothing else, please share this live for those that may not have been able to watch it right now. Download the free Ablazing Radio Pro app or log on to www.ablazingradio.com. I'm telling you guys, keep it locked right here because, well, we're not going anywhere. I'm just saying keep it locked right here, okay? Listen, what else can we get into? Oh, my goodness. College. What if my uncle is incarcerated? How does he get counted? By the prison, or how does that work?
You're asking great questions.
I'm nosy.
So most facilities, like I said, are counted there. But the question that I tell people then you need to follow up is, how did the state decide where to count? So we leave this that question to the states to decide, because states have jurisdictions on most prisons.
Right.
So some states will say you're counted in the area where you're held in the facility, or you're counted in their last known home address. But advocacy, no matter what side you're on, you should know that, and you should advocate for the side that you want to be on, because reentry, returning citizens come back home and there's not enough services for them.
Yeah.
Right. So I'm not saying it should be either they get counted in the prison or they get counted at home, but I think there's a business case to be made. How well are we dealing with returning citizens when they come back home?
How are the private prisons affected?
The same.
Or included?
There's no deviation there because they're all just facilities. So they all just have, we call it beds and heads. Like the same way at home, and sometimes beds and heads is not a good thing. The number of beds they have in that facility is the number of people that they house, and that's how they count. In private, public, that's how. But I will say, private institutions can say no. So that's the only nuance. I don't know why they would, but a private institution can say, I'm not going to share with you the data.
Interesting.
About who we're housing here.
Is that because their funds are privately collected? They don't rely on the government?
All the above. And I'm not going to speculate on which one, but they have their reasons.
Right.
Yeah.
Military is also accounted for.
Yep. So mental health, seniors, and living in facility, all of that is usually done with a group quarters operation.
This is just such an interesting conversation. I mean, even more than I anticipated it to be. The last census 10 years ago, I think it said it had 307 million people.
Roughly, yep. And that is not including all the people that did not respond.
Right, because from the data that was reported, which is publicly, it was saying like 71% of the people that responded were white, with only about 15% black, and the rest other nationalities. Asians, I think, were about 5%. And that directly affects our communities. I have to go back to that because, I mean, it was just astonishing to me. I mean, I know we're bigger than that.
I tell people all the time, so data tells a story, but sometimes you just got to look around and be like, does that make sense? And if we're saying, now let's put dollars and cents, these are the populations that got money.
Yeah.
Aggregate populations.
Yeah.
Who got taken care of. So.
I mean, even when I drive from northwest to northeast to southeast to parts of Maryland, I can just see the difference, and it pisses me off. And now I kind of understand why.
And they always say we're about to be a majority minority nation.
Right.
Call it a hunch. I think we might already hit that.
I think we've already.
Right.
I think we already got there.
But regardless, we want to make sure that if we're taking a snapshot of America, that we're included. Right. So some days that's all I tell people. April 1st is the census day. That just means on that day, where have you been living? When we take that snapshot, we want America to look like us, like you, like me, like all of us, because we're here.
Yeah.
So we should be included in the picture.
We ain't going nowhere. Listen, I this is mind blowing to me. It really is. Is there anything else that you want to share with the community that we may not have touched on?
No, absolutely. So I do want to go back to the fact that for the first time ever, we have gone online.
Right.
Right. You can fill it out online and over the phone, and it's also available in 13 languages, but it's indexed to 52. Right. So
interesting.
We're inviting people in language, and I think that's a big deal. And you still get the paper form in some instances. But when you go to 2020census.gov, we have this new marketing campaign, and I know you guys are starting to see media and outreach. It's actually good.
Yeah.
And it's for you to share. So all our outreach materials up and available. Print it out, use it. Do not reinvent the wheel, right?
Yeah.
If you're like, hey, I want to drop this on my Facebook, Instagram, we have a social media toolkit.
That you can download for free.
For free. Our logo, you can use it, right?
So all of my media, my film, my arts and entertainment colleagues, get this downloaded. You don't have to screenshot anybody else's. You can get it free and clear, no blurs, none of that.
None of that.
Right from the website, and you can promote this thing because it is a very important thing to do.
And we can't do it without the community, right? So remember, in my job, I realized if I'm still talking about it until July 30th, I don't think we've hit all the trusted voices. My role is, when this is all said and done, y'all will not remember me, right? Your grandmother's gonna be census ambassador. Your daughter, you guys are the ambassadors. And now we got to go over and tell that. And our slogan is shape your future, right? So this is your opportunity to go there and shape your future. So in 10 years, we could tell a different story about our communities. In 10 years, we could say we got the funding, our roads are looking better, our schools are not overcrowded. This is a really important opportunity. every 10 years.
Yeah.
And we get it wrong one time, we got to wait 10 years.
Yep. And we don't think about our young children once they get into middle school, high school. What they're looking at. I mean, I'm telling you, if I had known, I would not have moved to this particular area. They only had one high school in the entire town.
And that's a great example because so Census Day, if your child is born that day or before, you can get counted. If they're born after, they don't count.
Oh my.
But let's talk about what happens in a child's life in 10 years.
Right.
Early childhood, pre-K, all these things that we have names for.
Yeah.
They're all federally funded. So if you want more early childhood, more this and that, by the time they're 9 or 10, we're dealing with reading, writing, services. 10 years is a long time, but a lot of happens in 10 years.
Yes. This has been a pleasure. Bones, do you have any questions over there? Anybody on your live or you yourself?
No. You asked all the questions I always had doubts about. I mean, just being from a different country.
Yes.
And, not, just like he said, not being understanding or had the know-how because, you can't do this or you can't do that. So everything is like, nah, I'm just not going to deal with it.
Yeah. But the census is encouraging citizens.
Yeah.
Right?
Learned a lot about
to encourage to fill out the form.
Absolutely. So you can be a non-citizen and documented, like anybody. Like there's no stipulation.
Everybody.
If you're living here, if you're here, right? We tell people we're the age of couch surfers. You got 10 people in your house who are using your services. That looks like your food and your water and utilities.
Fill out that form so you might be able to get some assistance.
Yeah, it is.
Okay.
And if you're staying on that couch and you're living on that house,
yeah,
fill it out also because and we will figure out how to aggregate that data. So like if a parent counts and the student gets counted, we're the biggest statistical agency in the planet.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out. An overcount is better than an undercount. Right?
So exactly.
If you have any doubt, fill it out.
And
then we'll figure it out.
We'll figure it out. All right. So listen, guys, the Census 2020 is one of the most important things that we can do for our community. Why? Because we have the ability to shape our future, which is the voice of the Census 2020 right now. That's the slogan. Shape our future for our children, for our seniors, for our roads, for our schools, for our infrastructure, for jobs, for everything. And this has been a wonderful conversation.
And we are apolitical, nonpartisan, so do not get caught up in all that the
minutia.
Political climate, right? Like we are not them.
You won't be sharing information.
Yep. Not FBI, CIA, IRS, any of that.
None
and
of that.
If you hear anybody tell you that,
they're telling a story.
Tell them to go to the website, right? And if anything I say does not sound true, fact check me, because you know what?
I didn't already fact check the facts, and you didn't say you spoke the truth tonight, Julius.
It is. I'm a truth teller.
You really have,
it is.
And I'm very, very glad because, like I said, I did not realize how the census affects all of us, and primarily the African American community, because we are the very ones who may not fill out these forms, and then we are the very ones who say they don't want to help us. They don't want to help us succeed. And in many instances, I do believe that we should do things on our own. We should, formulate our own. However, while we're here, and if we have to be here, let's get a little help from what is due to us.
Absolutely.
As humans.
And I always say if these processes were not important, then there wouldn't be as much resistance, right?
Yeah.
Right. So think about voting, right? For the record, we're apolitical, nonpartisan. There was a lot of barriers of entry when it came to voting.
Yeah.
But we all say, well, I don't want to vote. If there was just that easily accessible, they would not have put barriers. So with the census, I think the information gap is something we have to overcome, because this is very important. Other communities across the board are going out of their way to make sure that they get counted. And I don't think
Say that again.
Other communities are going out of their way to make sure they get counted.
Why is that?
Right. So like in Maryland, second to Montgomery County.
Yes.
Carroll County was the most counted,
really
the highest response rate. Lowest was Baltimore City.
Okay.
Prince George's County. Right. And if this is all straight dollars and cents, Maryland, it was about $18,000 or $1,800 per person, $18,000 for 10 years. Multiply that by all the people that were undercounted in your community. That's how much money you lost. But I'm gonna tell a positive story.
Yeah.
But we get a second chance to do it again.
Yes.
Well, not a second chance. It's 1790. We have a chance to do it and do it right, and for 10 years. So this is very important.
So be counted. You count, you matter. Your children matter, and our communities matter. So it's very important that we do this. If you don't believe me, you don't believe Julius, go to the website, and they're hiring $17 to $25 an hour, depending on what your profession is. Where can they go to get that information, Julius?
2020census.gov/jobs.
The commissioner said so.
It is Census Commissioner.
Mr. Julius Maina, Partnership Coordinator of the Census 2020, we thank you so much for gracing us tonight and just sharing your wealth of information with the community on Census 2020. Do you give out social media information?
Sure. So this is after hours? So on social media, I'm Educated Insolence, and my views are my own on social media. So I don't want to create a conflict between the two. But I am on social media, Educated Insolence.
All right.
And I'm a truth teller there too.
All right. So remember, day job, personal. All right. But go to census2020.gov to get the information.
2020census.gov.
2020census.gov. Thank you. To get the information on what we need to do to move our community forward. DJ Firebone.
I'll go on.
I wanted to remind everybody that Stephen Marley, I'm sorry, thank you again, Julius.
Absolutely.
I wanted to remind everybody that the great Stephen Marley is going to be live performing at the Howard Theater in Washington, D.C. on Thursday, March 12th. And we have some tickets to give away. But first, we're going to get back into 592 Sound right here on Blazing Radio. It is where entertainment lives.
Them lips are we not gonna further. And a punk on nerd and not come church. I call them style and murder. They say that high down we have been rich now we have